A knock at the door, then a crash. The floorboards torn open like wrapping paper. Inside, hidden beneath layers of insulation and popcorn tins, lay the truth. Over $3 billion in stolen Bitcoin. That was the moment Bitcoin Jimmy's fantasy ended. It wasn't just cops at the door, it was the IRS, the FBI, and nearly a decade of ghosts. And what they uncovered wasn't a drug empire or a cartel kingpin. It was a lonely nerd who had outplayed the internet, then outed himself.
Clark County 911. What is your name, sir?
It's James Zhong, Zhong.
The craziest part? He never even spent the money. James Zhong, better known to the world as Bitcoin Jimmy, seemed like the kind of guy you'd want at your party. Generous, hilarious, always paying for dinner, drinks, the after party, and the flight to Cancun the next morning. He was a walking celebration, but behind the grins and bottomless bottles was a boy still stuck in a school hallway called Fat, Ugly, and Friendless. Jimmy didn't grow out of the bullying, he just grew around it. He learned early on that friendship could be bought, and for a while, it worked. But it wasn't cheap, and eventually, Jimmy paid in full with his freedom. Born in Shanghai, raised in the States, Jimmy's childhood was rougher than most. His father was jobless, his mother drowned in nursing shifts, and Jimmy, he was invisible. Beaten down at school, forgotten at home. His only escape was the internet, a place where your body didn't matter. That's where Jimmy learned to code. He wasn't just hiding online, he was building a new identity, a better one. By the time he had college, he was knee-deep in tech forums, Bitcoin threads, and one particularly infamous site, the Silk Road. It was the Amazon of the dark web, a drug market run by a man calling himself Dread Pirate Roberts. In 2012, Jimmy noticed something strange. A small glitch in the Silk Road's withdrawal system, like a video game bug that duplicated items when you pressed the right buttons. Only this time, the items were Bitcoin. Real Bitcoin from real drug dealers. He tried it once, then again, and again, until he'd siphoned over 50,000 Bitcoin, worth a few $1,000s then, worth billions later. Imagine pressing withdraw and watching the money double, over and over. Would you stop? He didn't. He made 9 fake accounts, each draining funds from escrow wallets. These were coins customers left in the system to buy illegal substances. The money was dirty, but Jimmy felt clean. He never sold drugs. He never touched a weapon. He just clicked. Then came Loaded. That was his alter ego on the Bitcoin talk forums, an anonymous Bitcoin whale who casually bragged about his 40,000 coin stash, his trades, and his Bugattis. Of course, Jimmy didn't own any Bugattis. He was pretending. Online, he was a god. In real life, he was just a kid desperate for approval. And that desperation spilled over into his real life. He bought a lake house, partied like Gatsby, and surrounded himself with friends, most of whom liked him more for his money than his heart. He had finally become popular. But still, something was missing. Jimmy knew what he did was risky. He knew Bitcoin was traceable. He even talked about mixers, tools to hide the digital trail. Think of it like pouring black paint into a clear glass of water. You can't see where the liquid came from anymore, but the trick is, the water's still there, you just can't prove which drop was whose. He waited. Years passed. The Silk Road went down. The FBI arrested Dread Pirate Roberts. Jimmy stayed quiet. Almost. The Loaded account mysteriously moved funds right after the bust. Suspicious timing, but nobody caught it. He thought he was in the clear. Until he slipped. In 2019, Jimmy had over $200 million in Bitcoin, but when $400,000 in cash was stolen from his house during a trip, he called the cops.
Clark County 911. What is your name, sir?
It's James Zhong, Zhong.
Yes, The guy who stole billions from drug lords called the police. That one call flagged him with the IRS. They assigned a specialist in crypto crimes, and from there, it all unraveled. They subpoenaed his ISP records, tracked transactions, and found the tiniest overlap between his clean coins and the hacked stash. A breadcrumb, really. But that's all they needed. The authorities were watching, and Jimmy, oblivious, was about to invite them inside. For nearly a decade, Jimmy danced on the edge of a blade, bragging online, hoarding billions, and playing rich in a world that didn't know his name. But the walls were closing in. Because the next time the cops showed up, they wouldn't be asking about the missing 400 grand. They'd be taking the popcorn tin. It was November 9th, 2021. A quiet morning. Too quiet. Jimmy didn't know it yet, but he was minutes away from losing everything. The agents knocked. Jimmy welcomed them in, still believing they were there to help him find his missing $400,000. He even showed them around. "There's the safe," he said casually. "That's the briefcase I used to impress girls." He pointed out his security system and joked about how tight his setup was. He even, in a move that can only be described as painfully poetic, logged into one of his Bitcoin wallets right in front of the agents. They saw over $80 million live, on screen, and they didn't blink. They knew what it was. They'd been tracking it for months. Jimmy had just confirmed what they already suspected. He wasn't just that generous party guy. He was the hacker, the legend, the shadow behind the largest unsolved theft from the Silk Road. And now, they had everything. The house was a gold mine. Floorboards pried up, safe compartments and walls, physical bitcoins. Yes, real ones. Minted for collectors, stuffed between furniture and floorboards, hard drives like landmines, cash like wallpaper. But one thing stood out above everything else: a single computer, small, innocent-looking, hidden inside a popcorn tin on a bathroom shelf. Inside that tin was the treasure map, the keys to over 50,000 Bitcoin, the very same ones stolen nearly 10 years earlier. At the time of the raid, those coins were worth over $3.4 billion. Let that sink in. It wasn't just the biggest Bitcoin bust in American history, it was one of the biggest seizures of wealth from a single person ever. And the guy who pulled it off wasn't a mafia boss or North Korean agent. It was a nerd who wanted people to like him. When Jimmy finally faced the court, you'd expect a long list of federal charges and a multi-decade prison sentence. But what happened next shocked everyone. He got 1 year and 1 day. That's it. Because Jimmy had already lost everything. The government seized his assets. The Bitcoin, the cash, the homes, the lifestyle. He didn't fight it. He helped them. Fully, willingly. The kid who once hacked the Silk Road gave up the keys to his empire without blinking. He didn't cry in court. He didn't beg for mercy. He just stood there. A man stripped of his legend. Now nothing more than a symbol of lost potential. What makes the story tragic isn't that Jimmy got caught. It's why he did what he did. He didn't steal to buy mansions or Lamborghinis. He wasn't trying to rule the world. Jimmy wanted what most people want: to be seen, to be liked, to feel like he mattered. He bought friends because friendship was something he never had. He played rich because poor meant powerless. He flexed online because in the real world, nobody cheered when he walked in the room. And in the end, he lost everything because he needed people to know he had something, even if he couldn't spend it. Jimmy stole from criminals, became a criminal, then called the cops on a criminal, and got arrested as one. It's poetic, it's sad, it's ironic, but most of all, it's human. Jimmy didn't fall because he was greedy. He fell because he was lonely.